Hello, all. My name is Hanna Morell. I'm with Pacific Stoa Financial Coaching. This is Tank. And I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about something I'm calling financial skepticism. I hear this a lot when I'm working, not just when I'm working with my own clients, but when I'm kind of in the teach the teacher capacity, when I'm teaching the tools that I use to advocates and mentors, navigators, case managers, other coaches, that kind of a thing. Is that we get set into our brains that just because we've heard a piece of financial wisdom or a tool over and over and over again, or even if we've regurgitated that over and over and over again, that it's a good tool. So I've got four rules that we'll talk through here in a second about how you can tell whether a financial tool is serving you or not. So many of these tools that we've been given over and over and again are solid, and some not so much. Unfortunately, the ones that we tend to remember are the ones that are not working. And these are things like spend on what you need, not what you want. Save for a rainy day. Have 3 months of expenses saved up. Just get your shit together. I just need to get my shit together. Or buy a home and you'll be okay. Um, and I need to be super, super clear. I am not saying that we shouldn't have savings or that people shouldn't spend on what they need or that no one should buy a home. What I am saying is that these are not financial tools. These are the natural, almost accidental result of a well built financial tool. Perfect financial tools are simple, but they are not simplistic. And all of those that I just gave you are simplistic financial tools or hacks or whatever you want to call them. So we'll go over the four rules in just a second, but I do want to point out that these four rules could be applied to any strategy, philosophy, or structure that you're using. So you could apply this to how you parent, like the parenting tools that you're using, or job searches, anything like that. But we'll be talking specifically about them in terms of financial. So, rule number one is it judgmental? So, the quickest way to tell if a tool that you're using is judgmental is if you feel like shit when you try to use it. If you feel like you're setting up for yourself up for failure, or if there's any part of your internal conversation that reminds you of other times that you've tried and failed, the tool is the problem, not you. And I need to repeat that. You're not the problem. The tool that you're using is the problem. So we tend to fail ourselves before we fail a tool that we're using. We see those around us supposedly focusing on their needs over their wants or quote unquote having their shit together and wonder why we can't do that too. I hear this when I hear my clients saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just using a broken tool. But we have heard that particular piece of financial wisdom a million times and said it a million times, and no one ever gives us another option. And that's how we get dialed into thinking that we are the problem, not the tool, and end up never looking for other tools and never looking for other resources. I do appreciate that judgment, shame, guilt, regret, all of those things are conflated with accountability. But make no mistake on this, you can hold yourself accountable without ever applying an ounce of shame or judgment to yourself or anybody else. I do appreciate that this is an attempt. We're trying to make this a decision making tool, right? We're trying to use our past choices and mistakes to make better decisions in the future. It's just not working. And if it was going to work, it would have worked by now. Um, judgment, shame, guilt, all of those things typically only makes accountability harder. I have a recorded training out on the website. It's the crisis procrastination cycle, and we dig around in this right here a lot. That shame and judgment only makes holding ourselves accountable harder. And probably the best slash worst example of a judgmental financial tool is I just need to get my shit together. So, rule number two is it customized to your life? And we'll use parenting as an analog for this. You wouldn't parent a 6 month old the way you'd parent a 6 year old or a 16-year-old. And we don't expect that tools that worked in one phase of our children's life will work for very long. Might not work 6 weeks later. So our children change all the time, as they should. And oh, we don't seem to ever apply that same changing philosophy to our financial lives. So these impersonal, prefabricated financial tools do not allow our lives to change. And if there's one thing I want for my clients and coaches, it's change. We are always going for the perfect balance between structure and flexibility. A well structured financial tool allows us to carry forward our goals. The structure itself is like giving instructions to our future selves about what we want. A really great example of this is budgeting, which I don't teach in a traditional way. I teach a modified zero based budget, which provides a good amount of structure. So we are like, what I'm telling myself when I make my ZBB for a month is this is what we're focusing on this month. This is what's important to us. These are our priorities. That's what structure is for. Um, but you could apply this to any financial tool. We need structure, but we also need an appropriate amount of elasticity. Flexibility in a tool, squishiness in a tool allows us for not only planned changes, like planning towards buying a house or moving towards paying off our debt. Uh, it's also for emergencies because those are always going to happen. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but there will never be a point in your life where you will not have an emergency. What an emergency means may change for you over time, but there will always be something. And then there's the third option. So there's planned changes, emergencies, and then the third option is an opportunity, an unexpected opportunity, which we frequently don't see if we're too worried about the emergencies. And so our life needs to be flexible enough to handle that, and any financial wisdom or tool or hack needs to be the perfect amount of flexibility and structure as well. So the effort needed to develop a properly personalized, changeable, yet structured financial tool is decidedly front end loaded. So the first time I talk someone through a zero-based budget, it typically takes about an hour. Within just a couple of months, that zero-based budget is representing about 10-15 minutes of their life every single month for the whole month. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in rule number 3. So probably the worst example of a prefabricated, non-customized financial tool is save 10% of your income, which may be appropriate right now, but it might not ever be appropriate. So maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 5%. Save 10% of your income is not going to serve anybody very well. Rule number 3, is it easy to use? This may seem a little counterintuitive, considering that I just told you that a well-built tool must be customized, but customized doesn't mean complicated. Instead, it should mean that it fits pretty seamlessly into your life and becomes easier to use over time. If you are a coach, mentor, advocate, caseworker, anybody like that, this is critical for you too. We want to be able to teach our clients a tool and then let them go, right? Let them customize and modify and evolve that tool for themselves. So it becomes easier for them over time because the tool is getting better. It becomes easier for us because we get to step away. And another way of thinking about that is just self-sufficiency, right? We want to be out of a job. My job for both my private clients and from the coaches that I teach is to be out of a job. I want to be able to hand you those tools and move away, not move away, but be there if my clients need me, but I'm not going to be there as an accountability or a babysitter. So the most complicated pieces of advice are sometimes look like elegant, simple wisdom. Live below your means is a perfect example of that. You can't easily or quickly change your lifestyle. Our lifestyle has 1,000 million moving parts, from where we live to what we eat for breakfast. All of that is impossible to attempt to change without a long-term strategy, which needs to be both nearsighted and farsighted. Needs to be both flexible and structured, as we talked about before. So probably the worst example of an overly complicated financial tool, even though it doesn't sound like it, is quote unquote live below your means. I can't do the air quote with both hands right now because Tank is sleeping on one of my arms. Rule 4, last 4, is it working? What we're asking here is the tool working, not are you doing it right? If you've been trying the needs versus wants assessment for years and years and years, there has to be a point where you ask yourself, is this rule working? It's not you, it's the rule, it's the tool. the disconnection between the tool not working and a person, quote unquote, not doing it right is critical. If you are attempting to hammer in a nail with an Allen wrench, you likely wouldn't tell yourself that you're really bad at hammering, or you need to try harder, or um, I'm not going to stop because I'm not a quitter. It's not about you being a quitter. You don't have the right tool for the job. That's all we're doing here. If a rule, tip, hack, strategy you are using is not working, it's always okay to ask if it's the wrong tool. Listen to your internal conversations. And if you find yourself saying, I just need to try harder, I just need to get this job, take a beat and ask yourself how often you're using that particular little piece of advice, and reminding yourself that if you're using that frequently, I just need to get my act together is another great example. If it was working, why do you need to keep reminding yourself? And probably the best worst example of a non-functional financial tool is keep your receipts so you know where your money is going. Again, we've all tried this. Keeping our receipts does not work. It might work for a couple days or a week or two, but long term, keeping our receipts doesn't work, and it ends up being another opportunity to fail ourselves. If you want to know where your money is going, I think the podcast, and I think I've got at least one article about how to do tracking right, how it's not what you think it is, and try that. It follows all 4 rules. So, what piece of conventional financial wisdom is ringing in your head right now? Does it pass all 4 of these rules? Let's go back. Rule number 1, is it judgmental, or does it make you feel like shit when you use it? No, rule number 2, is it customized? So is it customized to your life right now? Rule number 3, is it easy? Does it get easier over time? And rule number 4, is it working? Not, are you doing it right? Those are different. So whatever that little piece of financial wisdom that you have in your head right now that you've been thinking that I've been picking on this whole time, does it pass these 4 rules? And what piece of financial advice or wisdom are you using right now that does pass all the rules? I would love to get your feedback. I want the answers to those questions. That would be great. You can get me pretty much anywhere at #garbagetool, but you can tweet me directly at Hanna, HANNA _ Morell, MORRELL, or send me an email, hannah@pacificstoa.com. Yeah, thank you for watching this. I hope this helped develop some financial skepticism in your life. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.